to have a couple of young filmmakers, 27 years old, come in and find new life in the movie. Rocky's story has basically been told.
Sylvester Stallone has thrown punches, dodged bullets, and taken down entire armies on screen. But behind the scenes, he's been fighting a much quieter, more personal war. A war against some of Hollywood's most well-known names. For decades, Stallone kept his cool, letting his characters do the talking. But over time, the mask slipped. And what emerged was a picture of a man surrounded not just by fans, but by betrayal, envy, and deep-seated resentment. These aren't tabloid rumors or passing disagreements. These are real feuds that have lasted years, some even decades. And in classic Stallone style, he's never been afraid to name names.
Absolutely. And then Schwarzenegger, I've read that you guys actually hated each other for a while.
Well, we were very competitive. Yeah, I think hate's a good word. It is.
From explosive on-set clashes to humiliating public confrontations, these stories expose the underbelly of a glamorous industry that hides cutthroat rivalries in plain sight. One actor was banned from Stallone's set over a sandwich. Another was accused of trying to sabotage his entire career. Now, for the first time, we're breaking down the 5 actors Stallone reportedly hates most and why these grudges never died. Of all the stars Sylvester Stallone has clashed with over the years, none compare to the bizarre, bitter, and downright ridiculous feud he's carried for decades with Richard Gere. And yes, it all started with mustard. Back in the early 1970s, long before either man reached superstar status, both were cast in a TV movie called The Lords of Flatbush. Stallone, already streetwise and fiercely competitive, saw himself as the alpha on set. Gere? He was the younger, brooding newcomer with a quiet arrogance Stallone found intolerable. The two actors were like oil and water from the beginning, one rough and gritty, the other cool and polished. But things didn't boil over until lunchtime. According to Stallone, the cast was crammed into the back of a Toyota during a break when Gere, eating a greasy chicken sandwich drenched in mustard, made a fatal mistake. He dripped some of it on Stallone's pants. That's when it got ugly. Stallone claims he warned Gere multiple times to tone it down, but the younger actor kept pushing. Then came the moment that sealed Gere's fate. After the mustard mishap, Stallone says he elbowed him in the side of the head and pushed him out of the car. That incident got Gere fired from the film, replaced with Perry King, and sparked a vendetta that neither actor would let go of, even after they both became megastars. Years later, when asked about the feud, Stallone didn't hold back. He told reporters he would strut around in his oversized motorcycle jacket like he was the baddest guy in the world, and he didn't like me, and I didn't like him. Gere, on his end, never commented publicly in detail, but rumors swirled that he'd privately accused Stallone of intentionally sabotaging his early career. But it doesn't stop there. In the early 2000s, the feud reignited over a strange urban legend involving Gere and a hospital emergency room visit. The story, completely unverified and ridiculous, involved a bizarre rumor about a rodent and landed Gere at the center of one of the most humiliating celebrity myths of the decade. Many whispered that Stallone had something to do with the rumor's spread. Stallone later denied it, saying, "That's not my style." But the timing? Suspicious. To this day, neither actor has worked with the other again. No reconciliations, no public apologies, just silence. For a feud that began with a sandwich, it left one of the longest-lasting scars in Hollywood history, and it set the tone for how Stallone would deal with people he didn't trust, shut them out, speak his truth, and never look back. To the world, Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger were the ultimate action icons of the 80s and 90s. Unstoppable forces with chiseled bodies, big guns, and even bigger box office numbers. But behind the muscles and explosions, there was something far less cinematic. An intense, slow-burning feud that turned two of Hollywood's biggest stars into enemies for years. It wasn't just about ego. It was war. Stallone once admitted that he and Schwarzenegger hated each other's guts. And the root of that hatred? Competition. The two were locked in an arms race for Hollywood dominance, who had the bigger biceps, the higher body count, the bigger paycheck, and the more successful franchise. Rocky versus Terminator, Rambo versus Predator. For a while, every movie was a shot fired. But it wasn't just professional jealousy, it got deeply personal. Stallone has said that Arnold would deliberately spread false rumors about his projects to get studios to back out. And in one infamous case, Schwarzenegger tricked Stallone into starring in a movie that nearly tanked his career. That movie? Stop. Or My Mom Will Shoot. According to Stallone, Arnold got hold of the script, read it, and knew it was a stinker. But instead of passing, he publicly acted interested, knowing full well that Stallone's competitive instincts would kick in. And just as planned, Stallone snatched the role out of spite and instantly regretted it. The film bombed, critics laughed, and Stallone would later call it the worst movie I ever made. Meanwhile, Arnold sat back and grinned. That kind of sabotage went far beyond Hollywood gossip. It showed how calculated the rivalry had become. They weren't just actors, they were two alpha males in an endless game of one-upmanship. Schwarzenegger even claimed in interviews that the rivalry got so heated he trained harder just to make sure Stallone couldn't claim he was bigger or stronger in the press. For years, they refused to appear in the same room, let alone the same film. It wasn't until decades later that age, and maybe humility, softened the tension. By the late 2000s, after both had survived career dips and comebacks, they began speaking again. Then came the Expendables franchise, a surprise collaboration that fans never thought they'd see. On camera, it was explosive. Off camera, it was tense but civil. Stallone later said they had become friendly, but you can still sense the edge. The trust, fragile, the resentment, still lingering beneath the surface. Arnold himself once joked, "We're friends now, until he starts winning again." That's the Stallone-Schwarzenegger dynamic in a nutshell. Rivals who learned to coexist, not because they forgave, but because Hollywood demanded it. A truce built not on friendship, but survival. Sylvester Stallone thought Bruce Willis was a brother in arms. Both were action legends, survivors of Hollywood's golden era of explosions, catchphrases, and bullet-riddled box office hits. So when Stallone launched The Expendables, a nostalgic franchise that reunited action heroes from across generations, he naturally extended a hand to Willis. But what happened next stunned everyone, even Stallone. In the early 2010s, Willis was cast in the first two Expendables films. He played the mysterious Mr. Church, a shadowy government figure with a no-nonsense attitude. Fans loved seeing him alongside Stallone, Schwarzenegger, and the rest of the crew. But by the time Expendables 3 was set to film, something cracked behind the scenes. Willis reportedly demanded $4 million for just 4 days of work. That's $1 million per day, a price tag that Stallone couldn't stomach. When producers refused, Willis walked away from the franchise. Stallone was furious, and he didn't stay silent. He went straight to Twitter and posted a now infamous message: "Greedy and lazy, a sure formula for career failure." He didn't name names, but the context was crystal clear. Within minutes, the media connected the dots, and the story exploded. Fans were shocked. Insiders were buzzing. Stallone, who had carefully crafted The Expendables as a tribute to the genre that made them all famous, felt betrayed by someone he considered a peer, even a friend. Worse yet, Willis didn't respond publicly. No apology, no explanation, just silence and absence. The fallout was instant. Harrison Ford was brought in to replace Willis in Expendables 3, and suddenly the chemistry shifted. While Ford brought gravitas, fans noticed the missing spark, and many felt Willis's absence as a rupture in the original vision. Stallone, meanwhile, stood by his tweet. In interviews that followed, he clarified that the problem wasn't just about money, it was about attitude. He wanted people who were excited to be there, who believed in the project, not actors who saw it as a quick paycheck. Behind that statement was years of tension. Stallone had built The Expendables from scratch, and Willis's cold negotiation felt like a slap in the face. It wasn't just business. It was personal. Even today, there's no sign of reconciliation between the two. Willis's declining health has taken him out of the spotlight in recent years, and Stallone, while respectful of his condition, has never publicly walked back his harsh words. Their feud stands as one of the most abrupt and painful in Stallone's career. Not a war of fists, but of silence. Of trust broken not by betrayal in the script, but betrayal in real life. And the lesson? Even in a world of explosions and blood-soaked loyalty, real friendship in Hollywood can blow up just as fast. In the late 80s, Sylvester Stallone and Eddie Murphy were Hollywood royalty. Stallone was the king of action with Rocky and Rambo, while Murphy ruled comedy with Beverly Hills Cop and Coming to America. Beyond the flashing cameras and red carpets, they shared something rare in Tinseltown, a genuine friendship. They partied together, supported each other's careers, and bonded over their shared journeys from humble beginnings to superstardom. But that bond began to unravel in 1987 during the filming of Beverly Hills Cop 2. Stallone's then wife, Bridget Nielsen, had a role in the movie. Tall, blonde, and magnetic, Bridget caught the eye of many on set. Rumors quickly swirled that she and Murphy were too close, sparking whispers of something more than friendship. Hollywood thrives on gossip, and soon the rumors snowballed. Every laugh, every lingering glance between Murphy and Bridget was scrutinized. For Stallone, the constant mentions of his wife's name alongside his friends became unbearable. He wasn't the type to let it slide. Instead of letting rumors stew in the shadows, Stallone confronted Murphy directly. A raw, emotional phone call followed. No PR filters, no lawyers, just two friends tangled in hurt and confusion. Murphy denied everything, but trust had already frayed. The fallout was brutal. Calls stopped. Invitations vanished. Where there was once camaraderie, silence grew. The press jumped on the story, turning a private rift into public drama. The media framed them as rivals, each trying to outshine the other. The friendship that had once been a Hollywood rarity became another cautionary tale about fame, trust, and heartbreak. Though both stars continued their careers, that piece of their history was lost, never to be fully recovered. It's a stark reminder that even the brightest lights can cast the darkest shadows. In 1982, Sylvester Stallone was on fire. Rocky had transformed him from a struggling actor into a household name, an underdog everyone rooted for. But Stallone wasn't content to stop there. He had bigger plans, a darker, grittier character that would change the action genre forever. John Rambo. First Blood wasn't your typical shoot-'em-up. It was raw, emotional, and dealt with heavy themes like PTSD and alienation. Stallone poured his heart into it, determined to keep control over every detail. This was more than just a movie, it was a statement. Enter Kirk Douglas, Hollywood royalty with decades of unforgettable performances under his belt. When Douglas expressed interest in playing Colonel Sam Troutman, Rambo's commanding officer, it seemed like a perfect fit. A legend teaming up with a rising star could only boost the film. But things quickly took a turn. Douglas didn't just want to play the role, he wanted to rewrite the movie. The book First Blood was based on ended with Rambo's death at the hands of Troutman, and Douglas insisted that the film follow that ending. Not a suggestion, but a demand. Director Ted Kocha found himself stuck between Stallone, who saw a future franchise in Rambo, and Douglas, who wanted a dramatic final exit for his character. Douglas even talked about himself in the third person during meetings. Kirk Douglas won't say this line, or Kirk needs a stronger motivation here. A sign of his ego clashing with the creative vision. Long nights were spent rewriting and arguing. The tension on set was palpable. What started as a collaboration turned into a battle between New Hollywood's vision and Old Hollywood's star power. Stallone refused to back down. He had fought too hard for control to let anyone rewrite the story. Eventually, the director laid down the law. Douglas could stick to the script or leave. Douglas walked. Losing such a big name days into filming could have destroyed the movie. But in a twist of fate, Richard Crenna stepped in with less than 24 hours' notice. He memorized lines on the way to set and delivered a performance that brought warmth and humanity to the role, balancing Stallone's intensity perfectly. The change transformed the film. Instead of a tragic cold ending, First Blood became hopeful and open-ended, paving the way for sequels that would cement Rambo's place in pop culture. This clash taught Stallone a vital lesson. Protecting your creative vision sometimes means standing up to even the biggest stars. It was a risky move, but one that paid off in the end. First Blood became a hit and launched a franchise. And while Kirk Douglas's exit was dramatic, it helped define Stallone as more than just Rocky. It proved he was a force to be reckoned with in Hollywood. Sylvester Stallone's story isn't just about the movies he made or the characters he played. It's about the battles behind the scenes, the friendships tested, the egos clashed, and the grudges that shaped his journey. From a mustard stain sparking a decades-long feud to a phone call that shattered a rare Hollywood friendship and a fierce stand against a legend rewriting his vision, Stallone proved time and again that success comes at a price. His rivalry with Arnold Schwarzenegger turned Hollywood into their personal battleground, pushing them both to greater heights while fueling some of the most iconic films of the 80s and 90s. It wasn't just petty squabbles. It was a high-stakes game of power, pride, and legacy. In the end, these stories remind us that behind every blockbuster, there's a complex web of ambition, loyalty, and sometimes betrayal. And maybe that's what makes Stallone's journey so real. A relentless fight to be more than just an actor, but a legend who refused to back down. What do you think? Could these rivalries have been the secret fuel behind some of Hollywood's greatest moments?